Cody and Eric Sheets-Haber. We're going to be talking through this NFL slate. It's obviously a little stressful. We've got a lot of stuff, and as we know, we'll be getting in for injury updates as the show's going because it's 90 minutes before game time. And first thoughts, I'll start with you, Rody, and then we'll jump over to Sheets. Give people a second to come on in here, but just sort of generally, we did our show the other day. What games are you targeting? What have you sort of come off and gone different? And we'll get into specific plays and all, the Michelle stuff in a little bit once more people are in here and what we're doing with those situations. But what are you targeting mostly today?
You started with me, right?
Yeah.
Sorry. All right. I like my Chargers this week. We lost Hurts the quarterback spot today. Henderson's looking out. We got Sony Michel. So looking for the game stacks. I'm still liking the Chargers. Tampa Bay obviously is going to be the higher one. I don't mind throwing a Stafford lineup in there. I think he's viable. I think Sony Michel is going to be used a little bit, but I don't mind some of the secondary piece like Odell or Van Jefferson in that game. I do like the Minnesota game a little bit more, like Justin Jefferson a lot as a lower ownership piece. And the Chargers and Cincy game obviously is another one that I'm going to be playing some big stacks in. So those are really what I'm looking at targeting. So for stack wise.
Nice. Makes sense. Sheets, how about you?
Well, first of all, I would just like to just tell everybody who is asking what's going on with Survivor this week.
Oh, right.
So I got both very lucky and not lucky. All right. So we're down to 28 people in this thing, and we were doing our calculations, and we figured that Philadelphia was going to be probably pretty high owned just because of what everybody else had left. And we fortunately had Tampa left that we could drop on people anyway. And only 7 people had them available. And we figured that a couple of them would save them for later because of some bonus that happens. So when this news was coming around that Hurts was going to be questionable, it was kind of like annoying to me because I'm like, okay, so obviously no one's going to play Philly because they have to lock their picks in Friday night, or Friday at 4:00. So nobody would play Philly with that on the horizon. But, we still had to play Tampa. And as it turns out, they all played Philly anyway. They played Philly. 10 of 28 people picked Philly. And then the Minshew news came down. And so we have insane leverage on them. And only 2 other people took Tampa in the whole pool. So there are 3 Tampas, like 10 Phillies, a bunch of Vikings, Chiefs or whatever. So look, we talk about this in poker a lot. I mean, obviously the poker gods and the NFL gods have to cooperate, but we've certainly put this in. We couldn't have asked for a better distribution of picks and situations. So we'll just see what happens. So everybody who wants to root, you can root for both the Jets and if you want to always root for the Lions, root for them, and definitely obviously root for Tampa to get it done over Atlanta. With respect to DFS, on DraftKings, like right now, it's nothing particularly earth-shattering as far as which teams I'm using. I'm using Tampa. I'm using Vegas. I'm using both the Chargers and the Bengals, as Rody mentioned. I want to get your opinion on what to do with Philly, though, with Minshew being basically free. Is that something you'd play in GPPs? It's something that just play it in cash, whatever, but they just don't have enough ceiling to play it in GPPs. And we could get into Philly totally on its own when we start talking about Sanders and all this other stuff for Philly. But those are the teams I'm playing on DraftKings, or Tampa, Vegas, Bengals and Chargers, and Philly as well.
Yeah, I think that mostly on the same page. We're on a lot of the same pages. But by the way, that Survivor stuff is really exciting, and I'll be pulling for you today because that's a pretty incredible spot to be in.
Yeah.
And with regard to the Minshew thing, I am going to play some Minshew. I don't have like an overwhelming amount, but I do have a decent amount of him. And I think pairing him with Goddard or Devontae Smith or both is totally viable. I actually think it's better for their receivers in general. And I don't have a run back that I like from the Jets. It doesn't mean that I don't feel like I can't build out the rest of my lineup as a really nice secondary stack, including that Chargers Cincinnati game that I really like a lot. I'm going to play, I don't know, close to 20% of Minshew, and none of it on FanDuel for me because I didn't find the need to do it. But I think that there is like some upside, and people are like,
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, Minshew is not like he can't put up. I mean, even he can put up 20 fantasy points. He can put up 25. That's plenty at his price. Even if you have other quarterbacks going for 35, we saw it week 1 when Burrow was still cheap, and they won. That won the millionaire maker with 17 fantasy points.
Yeah.
So I don't think that. I think it's actually a good strategic move, even in tournaments. I understand that he's going to have ownership, but I don't have any problem with playing Minshew. It also does, like Minshew, you wouldn't play Minshew with Moreau. I personally would rather play him with Goddard, or you could play him with Devontae Smith, who no one's going to play. So there's ways to do it where it's not going to be so popular. So for me, that is something I'm doing. I do think the Chargers game is my favorite. I like the Brady stack. Unfortunately, it's pretty chalky. I'm mixing in. Look, I'm going to do the Arizona thing in 1 or 2 lineups. I'm just going to take a shot with Murray being where he is and Hopkins is cheap. We're still getting news in, so we may not even know that they're playing yet. Looks like nothing new. Okay. And the one the game I'm on a lot of is, I know it's weird. Mostly I'm on the San Francisco side of it, but between Eli Mitchell, Brandon Ayuk, Kittle, I just feel like these guys have to, the ball has to go somewhere. You know what I mean? And their whole offense has been Deebo Samuel basically this season and the running game. And I think Mitchell should have more opportunity. I know people think that they'll spread it around. I'm sure they will to some extent. He still had, 30 carries last week? So I am going to be getting involved in that. And I really like DK Metcalf. I don't care. I care. It's the reason I'm not overloaded on the San Francisco Seattle game is that I am a little worried about Wilson in that whole situation and how they've been playing and sort of look like they've given up almost. But I feel like for this specific game, they get up for it. So I actually have some Wilson stacks with Metcalf, with Lockett, with Ayuk and Mitchell on the other side, some with Kittle and Mitchell. You know what I mean? I just think there's a lot of pieces of that game that I have pieces of, and I don't think people are going to be that heavily targeting that game. Rody, what are your thoughts on that? And then we'll get into some positional plays, and start talking about, maybe the running back plays. Also, give us your thoughts on Minshew as well.
Well, you gave away one of my lineups. I did have a Minshew stack. I mean, literally, I felt like you built my lineup. Minshew stack with Goddard, Smith. You talked Mitchell, DK Metcalf secondary stack. You talked Eckler in that game, the Chargers, Cincinnati, which Eckler Chase stack. I mean, you put all that together, you might have a lineup there. So, I like those things you talked about. I don't have a lot of Metcalf, but I got a few lineups with him. I'm not doing any MME stuff today, so I'm building like 10 to 15 lineups, and I got them sprinkled in. I like Chase. I like Eckler in that game. I like, Keenan Allen's priced up a little bit more, up to 7,500, but he's still good. Mike Williams, our favorite target guy, a boomer bust guy, 5,700 in that same game. I know a lot of people that really like Mitchell today. I think he's going to be a strong play, not just because of his last game, but just you should be on him, I think. And I kind of like all that. I see the Chargers are coming down in ownership a little bit.
Yeah, it's a little surprising to me. Are we worried? I got to double check the weather, and I usually do that right before we go on here, but I didn't have a minute to do it before. But
Ross said okay, maybe likely a sprinkle late in the game, but okay.
So on that point, what games are we worried about for weather? Because I know there was a lot of talk early in the week about it, and like I said, I usually do it right before I come on, but I didn't catch anything. Is there anything?
I have a weather report up on one of my tabs here.
Okay.
Here we go.
Now go ahead.
Your Arizona game looks to be rain, looks likely, on and off spotty showers, occasional downpours, winds around 15 miles an hour in Chicago with stronger gusts. That's his report. Ross comments.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's obviously not ideal, but that game it's already a thin play anyways. It's something I just want to throw a couple pieces of just because you're never going to see. I mean, if Hopkins does play, you're not, like I always keep mentioning, although he never ends up playing, you're never going to see him this again. Go ahead, Rudy.
No, he's cheap at 6,200 on DK too. So the Hopkins call, but yeah, that weather's the worst of the day there. Another spot for showers late in the games, Baltimore, Pitt. And San Francisco Seattle game, flexing that to the afternoon has meant like betterly nice weather. So that should be a better game now. Before it was supposed to be rainy. So I think there's not much besides that Arizona game being the worst. So
nice. I appreciate that. We'll get into some questions and stuff, but Sheets, we'll start off with you on this thing. Okay, so we have a million running back options. This does feel like an automatic running back in the flex type of week. But if you wanted to be different, I think just even playing a wide receiver in your flex, although I'm probably just going to be mostly playing running backs, not entirely, but mostly playing running backs in my flex. There's a lot of guys to choose from, and I'll ask you who your guys' favorites are, and I'll give away my percentage of ownership of each of them afterwards. But who are you playing the most of, and are you sort of cycling through this slew of guys, and then where do you stand on Michelle sheets?
Yeah, I have 100 of Michelle right now. Obviously, I'm presuming that Henderson sits for now, and I can't see a world where I don't have 100 of him. If he's 4,300 and Henderson's out in this game script, I'm just, I know, hey, you're the Rams guy. You could tell me how he's going to fail because you're usually pretty good with this. Mm-hmm. I just don't see it. So I'm gonna have 100 of him on DraftKings for sure. And what that does, I mean, unfortunately, you know what having a $4,300 running back allows you to do if you feel like it. I mean, you could play Cooper Kupp now at 9K if you want.
Well, he's going to be. He's going to be popular though. That's like
right.
To get an ultimate chalk guy at 9,400.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So that's what ends up happening is that now maybe some stuff kind of opens up like that's not Cooper Kupp, for example. Mm-hmm. But as far as running backs go, I mean that's where I am. I have 100 of him on DraftKings, and my ownership's the whatchamacallit of other guys, running backs. Next guy I have is Connor at 40. I have Taylor at 40. I have Jamal Williams at 35. Gibson, I guess maybe under the field at 25. I don't know where Gibson's going to come in. Fournette, Mitchell. I mean the usual guys. I don't have any. And then the one guy that again I'm gonna make a case for. Well, I got a couple guys to make a case for if you wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind making a case for Josh Jacobs for Vegas. I'm way under on Madison, by the way, just for what it is. And then the other guy who again I gave it out whatever. I talked about this last week and you guys agreed, and nobody ever plays him and he always smashes, and there's Joe Mixon. So I'll throw that in the mix. So nothing completely weird for me on running back.
Yeah, it's a little bit. I'm sort of with you on a lot of that stuff. I do, for what it's worth, I have the most. I have like 45% Michelle right now. I'm probably going to try and come a little bit down on that, but there's plenty of switches I can make because I'm playing so many guys in the afternoon games that if Henderson somehow is available, I could come off of it if I need to. But I personally, I'm big on Gibson. The most, he's my favorite on both sides, especially on FanDuel. It's like ridiculous over there, his price. I like James Conner a lot. I'm like with the field on Madison. I do have 12% of Josh Jacobs, not a crazy amount. And I did sort of cycle through some of these guys. I actually ended up with 10% of Taylor because of all the value. I wasn't going to play any of them to start the week, but I'm going to still be well under the field. I don't mind a little bit of Saquon, Eckler, and I really like Joe Mixon as well. I have him at 25%. So, Brody, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I like that. You guys said a lot of the good running backs. I mean, Mixon, I'm getting to a little bit more of him than I've normally been. I'm down on Madison, like she said. I do like Gibson a lot. I like Elijah Mitchell a lot. So yeah, those are the guys I'm on Sony Michelle. I don't know how many laps he's in, but it's probably all of them. I don't know. I'm gonna try to find a way to get off him a little bit, maybe more, because I'm still worried about him in that game. But I'm pretty much I got a couple with Sanders. I know you guys probably don't like to hear that, but he's popping a little bit. I might only have one with Sanders. So like he's just kind of I feel like I gotta play that guy. He's like the Robbie Anderson early in the season.
Yeah, it's so frustrating when you see. And then if we're gonna play him, shouldn't we just play like Boston Scott? Like, I mean, Boston Scott.
Well, there was rumor he was not feeling well. Was he sick or out?
Yeah, he was questionable, but I think he's gonna end up playing.
But there's still some reason maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's like an emergency play. So
yeah.
Like I threw Sanders in one. He's still grading out okay, but. From a projection,
and look, if he ends up breaking me, I'm gonna be frustrated and pissed, but I'll have to just deal with it because that's what he does. I mean, I've literally played that guy way too many times this year, and it's cost me a lot of money. So I hope he doesn't.
I hear you.
But yeah, I'm so tired of the Eagles 3-man. Like it just doesn't even matter who they have. They just use 3 running backs. It feels like every week. Where do you stand on Jamal Williams? I actually have him like 20%. I initially was gonna have a lot more of him, but then I think there's just better Jamal Williams and David Montgomery are sort of those guys who I'm like, I just think we can find better plays, you know?
Yeah, I do. I've always liked Jamal. You know, he's a Green Bay guy for a while, and I like him at 5,400. He's projecting well. I think I'm going to get him in there at 5,400. I mean, I'm not going to have him 100% or anything, but like he's going to be sprinkled in my lineups. I would say I'm a little bit more on Mixon. I'm a little bit more on Elijah Mitchell, Eckler, Sony Michel. Those are the guys I'm more on over Jamal Williams and Gibson. Obviously, I got a lot of him.
Makes sense. Let's talk about some receivers before we get to questions. And thanks out there for the kind words, Tony. What's up to everybody in chat? Really appreciate you guys being here. And once we get through the plays, we'll answer questions. But Sheets, why don't we start with you at wide receiver? Who are you looking at?
Right. So as usual, you know, it's all a function of stacks and stuff like that. But I'll give you like kind of the obvious stuff. I mean, I already mentioned Cooper Kupp. Then the Tampa Bay situation. I mean, Chris Godwin rates to be the best play, but Evans, you know, he'll come in at half the ownership. So he's pretty logical. And then also to piggyback off of I don't know, it's piggyback off of, but to talk about Rhodey's Chargers. I mean, Keenan Allen's going to project to be kind of a smash play as well, which maybe Mike Williams then becomes kind of a nice little pivot off of him. You know, he's probably always pretty expensive, so nobody likes to play him, but he's always has now. That. What's that?
He's cheap this week, which is nice.
Oh, he's always has this big ceiling. And then I'm just trying to think of anything weird. You know, I like Jamar Chase, obviously. It's coming from that same game. I have a couple of hoodoos if you want to talk about some of them.
Yeah.
I mean, I like Devontae Parker. I like the Quez Watkins from the Philly game if you want to play him.
Okay.
The one team that I just want to force in, I just didn't get to them. I was just, you know, visually impressed. Let's just put it that way with Deontay Johnson. And I kind of have this feeling that you're supposed to play more of this game than people are playing. And aside from that, just the normal guys. Ayuk, who I'm sure you're going to mention, Justin Jefferson. You mentioned the Seattle thing. I know that some sharps might go to play DK Metcalf. Maybe Tyler Lockett might even be a good play. I mean, I don't know. So these are the types of guys I'm in. I mean, nothing weird, but you know, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean those make sense, but I mean there are some of those are a little bit off the board. I also think you could throw Josh Reynolds in as another cheap option. Rhodey, how about you at wide receiver?
Yeah, I like that Josh Reynolds. I think he's viable for a cheap guy. I mean, a lot of people are going to look for some of these cheap guys. You know, I like the Mike Williams play. I like Keenan Allen. I like Chase a lot today. Another guy I think people need to get to is Justin Jefferson a little bit more. I know everyone wants to play Kupp. So if you don't think Kupp's like a smash play, I mean, he's going to be a smash play, but I mean, like if you think he gets less, I mean, you could pivot way less ownership for Justin Jefferson. In that Detroit game, it's inside, you know, it's in good weather. I mean, there's no weather issues. Could be a big scoring game. Minnesota tends to score a lot of points occasionally. You know, you got Adam Thielen come off, you know, big games in that same game. You know, so I like those plays. I like Chase Claypool more in the, you know, you talked about Deontay Johnson, but like I do have a Lamar Jackson with Marquise Brown Andrews stack to get a little different. And I kind of ran it back with Chase Claypool. I know I talked Najee Harris on my DJ, our DFS picks this week, but I kind of fit that. Like we got so much running back now that I don't know what to do. I mean, Najee at low ownership is great, but he's in a little tougher matchup. So I don't mind the Chase Claypool pivot there in that game. To play there, you know, I like Odell Beckham at 5.5. I'm falling in that mid 5K range a lot, you know, like the T Higgins, the Odell, you know, DK at 6.7, you know, so that mid 5 to 6s. I kind of like some receivers in there. Another guy, Terry McLaurin at 7.4. I think he shouldn't be low owned. I think you guys should get some more of him. I don't have a lot of him. I'm sitting there looking at my builds like, why don't I have that guy? Oh, I got Gibson. That's right. So now I got to figure out how to get a little bit more Terry McLaurin in there.
I love the McLaurin. That was the issue I was having. Like, I play both these guys in so many lineups together because I really love McLaurin too this week, as we talked about on the show earlier. And I would just say, if you're going to play, for people who are going to play Lamar Jackson stacks, I understand that this doesn't seem like the greatest play in the world, but I would include some Bateman in there. If you're going to
Yeah.
stack up Lamar, I think that there's actually a decent rapport with there, and I love the both of the Steelers receivers. I didn't get to as much of them as I was initially thinking I was going to, but I do like the Deontay Johnson and Claypool, each of them, and I think Claypool is going to be like completely unknown, so I do like that quite a bit. For me, I'm going to be so heavy on I have like 45% Ayuk right now. It's ridiculous. Like, I'm just going to marry myself to this play and hopefully wish for the best because I really, really like it. I'm very heavy on the Mike Williams. I have almost 40% of. DK Metcalf, I have 35% of. I have 15% of Lockett on the other side of that game. I do have 15% of Jalen Waddle. I don't think that people are talking about this with Parker being back, but like Waddle obviously has a great rapport with Tua going, and it actually forced me into a couple Tua builds because I wanted to play Waddle and Parker both together, and it just sort of made sense. I could run back either a Barkley or a Golladay, who both, if they're able to move the ball at all offensively, the Giants, that it's going to go through those guys, I would imagine. I really like I love the Chargers guys, but like I mentioned, Williams at 30, almost 40%. I have 25% Keenan Allen on DraftKings, and on FanDuel I have a lot more Keenan Allen than I do of Mike Williams. I have Terry McLaurin at 20%, Jamar Chase at 20%, 24% Higgins, 25% Higgins, excuse me, and yeah, the Devontae Park, all those guys are in the 15% range for me. And one thing I want to try to do after we get off the show is make sure I get a little bit of Boyd. And I agree with what you said earlier about the other Rams receivers. I would say to take a shot with both Jefferson and Beckham. I think Jefferson is actually just as good of a play and will get less ownership. So I think people maybe should be looking at that one. They do like him, and maybe doesn't have the same big playability, quote unquote, as Beckham, but he still has pretty big playability as well. So that's what I'm doing. I even ended up with a little bit of Chenault in my Stafford stacks. I know I didn't need to go there, but I sort of thought, okay, if I'm going to, hammer stack this game a number of times, I will take a shot on a guy who's getting, what is he at 9 targets last week. They should be throwing the ball a ton. Somebody's going to have to, do something, even if they don't score any points, basically. Yeah. So that's where I'm at. Let's talk about tight end, because I think I think there's an argument to be made depending on how you're building. If you're going to play Moreau, to maybe even consider double tight end. I'll just start off with my guys and then we'll go to Sheets. But I like Gronk a lot. I obviously am going to play a fair bit of Foster Moreau, and then I love Goddard. I actually think this is a better situation for Goddard in some ways than if Hurts was the quarterback. So those are my main guys. I also think Mark Andrews is extremely viable, and I'm not. And then I'm going with my really weird play guys, and just look. Okay, it's only going to be 15% of my lineups. Maybe it'll cost me some money, but it'll be 15% more, I think, than anybody else has. I'm sorry, 15 times what anybody else has, and I'm playing some CJ Uzomah. Like there is a ceiling upside here. I like that game environment. It's a way to get low exposure, like a low ownership. This is a guy who's put up over 24 twice this season. The Chargers have given up some monster games of tight ends. So I like the idea of playing a little bit of Uzomah. What are your thoughts on that? And then let us know what you like, Sheets.
Yeah, so the guys that I'm going to be forcing in once we get off of this is a couple of things. First of all, I'm about with the field, I guess, on Moreau. I have like 40% Moreau. I like the Goddard idea, like you were saying, and just to go, right back to it, Grody. I'll go back to Jared Cook at 3,100 for the Chargers.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. Gronk, you mentioned. The guy who I'm gonna just force in, I'm writing out 5%. And look, it's the environment's kind of crappy, and now you're telling me it's raining and windy or whatever it is. But this Cole Kmet's good, and he's 3,600, and in a game where they're gonna be having a lot of plays. I don't know. I kind of want to try that. And the other guy who I don't know if you alluded to him before, but the TJ Hawkinson, I don't know who's going to have the audacity to play him at 5,200. But I think I'm going to do it. That's another guy.
I like this week he was going to be the real popular play, and then everybody sort of came off of him. But actually, the weather being like that, it can often be good for tight ends because they catch more balls underneath. You're not really trying to go over the top ever. It's just, you know what I mean? It doesn't necessarily affect the short intermediate passing game as much as it would the guys who are sprinting down the sidelines. So,
and I got one more for you. I got one more for you. This is a guy that you like to play sometimes, and he's going to be like 0%. How about a 3K Cameron Brate?
Yeah, I can't get myself to do it on this slate, but
Okay.
I get it. I'd rather just play the other guys around there. I like the other names you mentioned too much, I think, to get there.
Okay.
Rody, who are you looking at?
I got probably a lot more Foster Moreau. I got a Tom Brady. I like Rob Gronkowski in that game. Kittle's low owned guys.
Yep.
Like 5'9". You got no Debo now. Someone's got to throw the ball. Seattle's defense is, I don't know, awful in my opinion. So you can stack that game up a little bit. Mitchell or Kittle in that game. Logan Thomas at 4K to kind of pivot into a different play. He was a ton in the earlier of the year, and he's only 4K, and I think he could get a couple touchdown grabs in this game. I do like that TJ Hawkinson call, as I'm not getting there as much, but I do like it. I do like Conklin in the Minnesota-Detroit game, 1,000 more than Foster Moreau, but I can stack them up with like a Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson, and Conklin stack. You can run it back with Josh Reynolds or Jamal Williams or however you like, or no run backs at all type play. Another play I talked on the show pick show was Higbee. I don't think Higbee's getting he's like 7%, but Jacksonville's not very good. And 3.8 for a tight end to get different. He's got touchdown upside, I think. So I'm pretty much tighter pool today. A lot of Foster Moreau just because of the price. I'm trying to jam in some of these, ceiling guys at receiver I really want, and trying to not like dumpster dive totally for running backs. I want to kind of mix and match a little bit. So.
Mm-hmm. No, it makes a lot of sense. I think that we mentioned, I'll throw out another, long shot tournament plays would be Evan Ingram. And if you want to do the exact pivot off of Foster Moreau, James O'Shaughnessy. I know those are weird plays, but there's a way, if he gets 10 points and Moreau gets 5, which is totally on the card.
Totally possible.
Ahead of the field. And so
what team does O'Shaughnessy play for? Jacksonville?
Yeah, Jacksonville.
Tony asked you guys, if you guys do us a favor, just put QQ or something in front of the questions, or at least a question mark at the end. It's easier it's hard to see sometimes when I look through the chat. If we don't have a question mark or something, it looks like just people are talking back and forth. So I didn't recognize some of these as questions. But like Santino asked the question, he says Pitts, Uzomah, or Moreau. Those are such different tiers and plays, and depends on the rest of your lineups. I mean, Moreau is the right play to the safest play, is the cash game play. Pitts, I have a feeling that they'll try to do whatever they can to make sure that Pitts doesn't, get too far off. But I think Pitts is a strong play. We didn't really mention. I think I prefer Kittle, but maybe I should look a little more and maybe consider a little bit of Pitts because I'm playing so much of the Tampa Bay. But for me, I think I want to make it clear that Uzomah is a long shot play that I'm just banking on because of this, because of how I think the matchup lends itself to him.
I really don't think that anybody's going to be confused about Uzomah being a long shot play.
I hope not. When the question is Pitts, Uzomah, or Moreau, I don't know how to, you know what I mean? That was the question I was trying to
right.
That's a tough one, Any interest in Mooney? I had more interest in Mooney before we got Rody's weather report. Shout out to Kevin Roth. Rody through Kevin Roth speaking through Rody. Let's see. Any interest in Mooney for you guys?
So again, I do have worries about that game in general. But if I'm going to make a case for Kmet, I mean, I may as well make a case for Mooney somewhat. But Mooney's I guess the top wide receiver option, and
by far,
Kmet's the second one. So Hey, here's a guy who talking about wide receiver that you mentioned a few at the beginning of the week, and you never brought him up. And this is like the type of guy that, like, seriously, like in an alternate universe, he could have been chalky, but I don't think anybody's talked about him. So maybe nobody plays him, and maybe nobody should play him. What do you think of that Juwan Jennings from San Francisco?
Yeah, I think it's viable as another cheapo for sure, absolutely. But I think that the other, something. I think Parker being, active it sort of killed his ownership, which is great. Which means you're getting him at 1% instead of the 10% that he was projected to be early in the week. So
wait. Who being active?
Parker, because now they have another cheap spend down at wide receiver.
Oh, okay.
So that's why it'll make his Juwan a little bit lower owned. Rody, what do you think about those guys? Then I want to answer this next question. But what do you think about Mooney, and what are some of? I mean, we talked about the game stacks, but Tony, I'll refresh him in a minute. But go ahead, Rody. Any interest in Mooney?
I got no interest in Mooney. I'm kind of off that game. I don't think I got anybody. in that game. I'm not even got any David Montgomery.
What about,
I kind of take
James
big.
Conner in a
Huh?
ugly game? Ugly
No
game,
James Conner either. I got
Oh.
nothing on that game.
All right.
I'm taking a big stand on that game and getting kind of locking some of these other guys in. But I'm only building like 10 to 15 lineups, and
Sure.
if those guys go off, then I just close the laptop type thing.
Yep. Yeah. I like this question from CMAC, because I think this is a very good pivot off of the other guys. Myles Gaskin keeps getting there, and he's literally getting like 2.5 yards, 3 yards a carry, but he's always scoring. He gets in the end zone. He keeps putting up almost 20 fantasy points. He could end up in a matchup where I'm already playing a bunch of the Miami defense. I think Gaskin is a completely viable option on today's slate, and I just made a note to get a little bit of him in, especially in the Millionaire Makers pivots off of guys I like better, but in Gibson and Connor and Williams, I think he's a very viable pivot. What do you think, Brody? And then to you, Sheets, on that one.
What's the player? What was the question again?
It was about
Gaskin, right? Oh, Gaskin, good spot. Yeah. I mean, I'm getting a lot of the Miami defense today. Gaskin does seem to get a lot of touchdowns. I feel like the guy just falls in the end zone a lot of times, but he grades out okay in the projections. He's right there, same level as what Eli Mitchell type projected. Not a little bit less, but like a mix in Josh Jacobs, like down there a little bit. But yeah, only 5'8", not a bad pivot, low ownership.
Yeah, what do you think, Brody?
I'm sorry, are you talking to him?
No, go ahead, Cheats. What do you think? Sorry.
Oh, see, here's my view on all those games where I don't know, you have bad teams or whatever it is, and I don't know. See, here's the thing, and I've heard this a lot. When people try to attack like the Jets, hey, I'm taking Philly. I want to play Philly because the Jets are terrible. I want to play these because XYZ is terrible. This secondary is terrible. These teams, and again, maybe it's just from Survivor. I just watch these teams. They all freaking play hard. Like if you're gonna take guys like Devontae Parker or Myles Gaskin, I mean, they're not going to be that chalky, so it's not a big deal. But those types of games to me just seem like sloggy games. I mean, I don't know. I would rather you play play more of that Bengals stuff, or the other side of that game. Play a game that's got a little more tempo, a little more. Both teams really good. Both teams really trying. I think those teams. I know that some people say the opposite. Oh, these crappy teams can sometimes put up, give up a lot of points, whatever it is. I don't know. I've been watching these Giants, these Jets, and these Lions and stuff. Like they just play slow games. Everything's just close to the vest, and I just haven't seen really big fantasy points coming out of those games on any regular basis.
Yeah, I mean, in all fairness, with Miami though, they have had some pretty big performances. I mean, Waddle last week, Gaskin has been solid and consistent, and it's more just as a pivot, a price point pivot. But I understand your general thinking, and I actually, overall, that's the way I would look at it too. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I like the idea of maybe trying to get a little bit different and doing some of that. You guys, we didn't talk about the defenses before, but I have the Dolphins as my number one defense, along with the Rams. The Rams on FanDuel, the Dolphins on DraftKings, and actually I like the Dolphins on FanDuel because they get a little 900 discount. What are you guys doing in terms of defenses today? Sheet, start with you.
Yeah, I have the Dolphins my highest owned, and to give you an idea of how confident I'm in my defense, my highest owned defense is 17%.
Yeah.
My second highest owned is actually the Colts. At 15, and then I mean I'm just all over the place. I have 11% Ravens. I mean it's almost like I randomized it. I mean it's really nothing. I mean but the Dolphins do stand out as the best play for me, and the Colts I like as well.
How about you, Rody?
Yeah, I really like the Dolphins. I'm falling to some Raiders a little bit too in that game. I know I like Washington as well, but I the 2,800 price is good. The Dolphins only 3,300 on DK, so try to get there if you can. A couple $2,500 defenses, you can go Washington. Derek Carr doesn't always look that good. I'm kind of like mixing and mashing some of those 20, like the Jets too now with Minshew in the game. I think it's a better play now than it was. So I mean, Hurts they always had a bad offensive line for the Eagles. Now they have Minshew's thrown picks before. He's had bad games. So just if a pick six happens that game, the $2,500 Jets defense, I think's a little viable too. So
yep.
I mean, if you guys want cheaper defense, I tend to play anywhere from the 2,500 or 2,000s to mid 3,000s on DK usually.
Yep.
Kind of falling there. So
yeah, it's a little other than until we had Hurts out. I didn't. I mean, I do think the Jets are completely viable.
no, I didn't have any Jets till Minshew was in.
Yeah.
Just I'll clear that up.
Yeah. I'm gonna quickly take a look. Let's see. I've got
and I only have one or two. I think only one Jets right now. So just out of 10 or 15 lives.
Hey, it's still like almost 20%. What are you talking about?
So
I like the X Factor's way of phrasing the question that you already addressed, which is, what do you think of a low-owned Logan Thomas with McKissick out for the short passing game? I think that's a really good point, and I think Logan Thomas, we agreed was viable, right, Rhodey? I know you like that play.
Yeah, I do. He's kind of cheap on both sites, actually. I think even on FanDuel.
Yeah, absolutely.
5-6 on FanDuel.
Well, the other
tight end's kind of a
thing,
dumpster today, really. I mean,
well, the other thing that's sharp about that play is you could do that to pivot off of Gibson if you want.
Yeah.
Yep. The question about Bengals with two offensive line starters out today, does that make you lower the Burrow and stack ownership? To be honest, no, not really. It doesn't do it for me. I don't mind Burrow escaping and on the move, so I don't really. Doesn't scare me off of that, especially with the Chargers, who just get into these weird, wild shootout games like every other week, it feels like. So it doesn't change anything for me. You guys are still on the Bengals, right? Or you still like the Bengals? Fine, right? Brody, Cheats,
yeah.
Bengals still. Okay.
Yep.
A lot of people have been talking that game down. So if people are listening elsewhere, a lot of people have been talking that Chargers and Bengals game down a little bit more for pace play sometimes, because last week the Chargers didn't play up to the pace with Denver playing slow, and then Burrow kind of plays it slow as well sometimes. So
right,
they think it could be a slower pace game. But we've also seen the Bengals put up 40 and the Chargers put up 40. So if that's the type of game we get, you're going to need pieces of that game.
Yeah.
Or stack of that game. That's what I'm playing for.
That's how
I can't keep playing my Chargers every week and not have them this week. Although I tended to say, hey, I should probably back off a little bit on the Chargers stacks this week.
No, I'm into it. I really like those stacks today. All right. Any Matt Ryan with the game script, which they're going to get killed? No, Matt Ryan. It's fine, but I am not doing any of it, and it would only be with Pitts, and I just really don't like the Atlanta side of that game. Anything for you guys? For Matt Ryan?
Game, you mean?
No, for any Matt Ryan interest.
I mean, sure. I mean, look, if we believe that Tampa can stuff the run, which we believe that, and if you believe that Tampa is going to, they're a 11-point favorite and rate to have a lead, and it's a good weather, I think Ryan can do some things. You know what I mean? Like it's certainly not gonna. I don't know. He could get 3 touchdowns. He can get 3 touchdowns in a loss, for example.
Yep. No, that's true.
And he could play. You could go straight to Pitts, get some leverage off of Moreau, sort of. Yeah, I mean, it's not the worst play in the world. I mean, he's only what is Ryan, 5,600?
Yeah, I think he's really cheap.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to do it, but I'm not going to look. If you really get involved in this Tampa thing, and you think for whatever reason, let me tell you something. Do you want Matt Ryan? And this is a really interesting question. If Tampa's up 14-0 after like 6 minutes, do you want Matt Ryan or not? Probably. I mean, I don't know.
Well, I don't know if I'd want Matt Ryan. I know that there's going to be some opportunities in the passing game, but right. I don't know. I can't. I can't get to it, but I definitely understand the logic of it. And we've seen that. We've seen it happen before. But it's like, look at the weapons. He's really only Pitts is the one we're going to focus on. I don't know. It's just hard for me to get there. I really like the Tampa defense as well, but I didn't end up getting to them because their prices, and I like the other defenses a little bit better. Yeah. All right, guys. Any other questions before we get out of here in about 5 minutes? Let's see. Any other? It doesn't look like we have any new questions pop up, but maybe I missed something before. We talked about quite a few low-owned plays, but to highlight some of them, I said that's my weird long shot play is Uzoma. I mentioned Bateman in your Lamar stacks. I actually do think Najee Harris is more viable than we do, and I'm going to make sure to switch some of my Madison over to Najee Harris. I think that it's actually I actually don't see I know that the numbers on Baltimore has gone back and forth from looking like a great run defense to a horrible run defense, depending on which week you catch them on this year. So I don't have any problem with playing some Najee Harris. That's one of my low owned plays that I didn't mention. Anybody we didn't mention before that we're playing Sheets or Rody starting with Sheets?
Yeah, sure. Let me look through a couple of nonsense plays and see if there's anybody.
Oh,
yeah, sure. Why not? I'm looking at. Hold on, just give me a second. I do want to throw a couple out there. Okay, Braxton Berrios from the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty bad, right?
That's what we're raising.
No, I want to see as bad as I can. These guys I have over 5% of. Yeah, Braxton Berrios got to be really bad. I'm gonna sort by projected ownership too. Nothing that great. Hawkinson we already talked about. Defenses, not really. No, that's pretty much all. Quez Watkins already brought up. Oh, here's one. Zach Pascal, I have some of.
Zach Pascal. Okay.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one. I actually think that my weird one that I haven't used yet, but I might throw him into a lineup. And I know it's such a silly narrative, but like T.Y. Hilton's numbers against Houston make him look like Jerry Rice on steroids or something. Like he kills this team every time. So I actually kind of like T.Y. Hilton instead of Pascal on that one, but I think that's just probably
Pascal's almost like a pivot off a pivot. It's if you want to play Pittman over Taylor, then how about you play Pascal over Pittman? There you go.
Right. Rody, any low owned plays that you didn't mention that you want to touch on or that you pretty much said?
I gave pretty much all my low owned plays really.
He's only playing 15 lineups. You're not going to.
Yeah. I mean, I gave away a lot of my stuff.
All
right. Let's see.
How about Tevin Coleman?
Okay.
I'm not getting. I was just should we start naming off the dumpster fire?
Where's
Farrell Brown? Where's Farrell Brown?
Listen. These are guys I'm actually playing.
What's that?
I actually am playing these guys. That's the only reason I'm bringing it up.
The Farrell Brown scores of that.
True transparent. I am playing Tevin Coleman.
Hey.
I used to play a ton of Tevin Coleman.
Somebody's got to pay the rate to the good players. That's what
I did actually, in all fairness, go to Farrell Brown last week in some lineups because
P. Brown. There it is. P. Brown.
Bobby, that's why I brought it up because I'm kind of mad about that. I threw him in a couple, like, I got this just enough left for this guy. I'll plug it in.
All right, guys. Well, let's
talk about that guy. Come on, he should be good, right?
Right. Sheets will say the play.
No, he had a bad week, but he's had some good weeks before.
And every time he does, usually the guys, or most of the time, it feels like the guys go off. All right, but I've had a good, it's been a really, really strong last few weeks for me. So I hope to keep that going. I hope it keeps going for everybody. We hope, most importantly, Sheets, let's win that survivor pool and somebody out there win $1 million and show a screenshot. And we'll be in Discord all day. Any final? I'll give my final thoughts first, and then I'll go to Rody and Sheets. But I will just stick with what my final thoughts were for my hot take is that two of the players who are on the millionaire lineups will be from the Seattle-San Francisco game, which may not be such a hot take, but that's what my take is. Rody?
Well, if they're in that game, I hope it's Mitchell and DK Metcalf.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I got. Just kind of watch yourself this week. I think it's a 3 running back week. I don't say that often on DK. I really would love to play receiver in the flex. I have one lineup, I think, like that. It's because it stacked well with secondary correlations, but you probably want to jam 3 running backs in, guys. I know it sucks, but I think that's the week we're in. Unless we could play can we play 8 running backs on DK?
Yeah, I know, seriously. The basketball the other night when everybody's announced out, we're like, okay. I have like 1,000 plays,
Hey, I'll have one more question for you. So I got one more. This is for Bobby because you've been on this guy for like a while. Do you think that not to overanalyze the game, but do you think that they really put Ayuk? I mean, is it possible they just basically insert him in that Debo role where they actually give him a lot of handoffs now?
I think it's possible, and I mean I love Ayuk. So but I think more than likely they do that. I think they'll actually give Kittle some of the touches too.
Okay.
We've seen Kittle with he'll run the ball 3 or 4 times, and I think they might run a couple of those sweeps for Ayuk or something like that. But I still think Mitchell. I think that it's going to lead to Ayuk and Mitchell having big days. So I really like both of that.
Okay.
anyway, that's I guess the best I can do with that one. But all right, guys. Well, good luck to everybody out there. I hope you crush it, and we will see you in the Discord, and we will hopefully see one of you or one of us winning $1 million. Good luck, everybody.
All right, see you later, guys.